All right, what's going on, fellas? Welcome back to our road to a 405 overhead press. Before I head out to the garage and throw some moderately heavy weights around, I have a pitch for you guys about why you should think about yourself as a strength athlete, how to do that, and why it will most likely make you better at kind of whatever result you want to get out of your training. It's my belief that kind of regardless of whether you're a hobbyist with no specific outcome, you're not really sure what you want to do yet, but you know you want to get stronger, whether you're someone who's hyper specialized into a certain task already, understanding and implementing the principles of becoming a more well-rounded strength athlete is going to massively help you. Whether that's broadening out the base right now, you become a very non-specific but really good strength athlete, and then you can start making your training more specific to what it is that you want to do. Or if you're an athlete who's already pretty specific and is running into hard plateaus, you need to take a phase of your training where you take a step back and round yourself out a little bit more as a strength athlete before we push specific again to break through that plateau. I was just talking to one of my clients about this. I didn't plan this out. I don't have a script, but I did break out the whiteboard because I know some of you guys are visual learners and me just talking through it wouldn't be helpful for like a good third of you. I understand. So as much as I hate making educational videos, didn't plan it, but we're going to use the whiteboard a little bit just to kind of keep track of me over talking everything. Now, the first trait that a good strength athlete has, shocker, is that they're strong. We can get stronger through three primary pathways. One we talk a lot about on the channel is just getting more lean mass. Whether that's as much lean mass as you can have within your weight class, as much lean mass as you can have at the body weight you just feel comfortable for your day-to-day life. If you're a super heavyweight, as much muscle as possible. More like a bigger cross-sectional area predicts for maximal strength. A bigger muscle always has the potential to be a stronger muscle when we then apply the other two avenues of getting stronger. But we should always be taking notes from bodybuilders, whether it's nutrition or good training practices, because we want to have as much muscle as we can. The Sika guys have talked, everybody talks about this. It's true. And this is something we have to come back to. Technical efficiency, so whatever it is that is the outcome we're looking for, we want to be as technically efficient as we can at that outcome. And the same contractile force in our muscles will take us that much further if we have the technical efficiency on that specific lift. So someone who's a very newbie level sumo deadlifter with the exact same muscles could probably put 60, 70 pounds on their pull by really reaching high levels of technical efficiency. And then the last one is neural efficiency. Basically our body's ability to call upon as much of that muscle that we have as possible. And this is something else that kind of adapts with training. The more we train, more trained individuals are better at recruiting high threshold motor units. So we kind of want to be addressing those three avenues to getting stronger. This whole channel is about getting stronger, so we don't want to spend too much time on that one. The next one is going to be having a good work capacity, because you could have a guy who's strong who doesn't have the work capacity that kind of gets in the way of like, yeah, that guy's really strong, but I wouldn't call him a great strength athlete because he couldn't take up new tasks very quickly. So when we're talking about building a big engine, we want to be like, I want to be a well-rounded strength athlete that I can then take this huge ability to do work and recover from that work. And I could apply that to bodybuilding. I could apply that to, any strength sport, anything that's a tangential strength sport. I think even someone who's a bodybuilder, who you could argue, is that even a strength sport? Is that even a sport? Are they even an athlete? Sure, all of those are good points, but these same principles of making sure you stay at least a little well-rounded in that strength athlete continuum is really important, because if their capacity gets too low, they won't be able to do the amount of beneficial work and recover from it to maximize their physique. And when we get to the latter two parts of this, I think the same things will impede the result even as a bodybuilder. So coming back to this, when we want bigger capacity, we're looking at first is NEAT. It's not even exercise, it's just living an active lifestyle, getting yourself up to like 8,000 to 10,000 steps per day. It's in the name, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This doesn't even count as exercise. I consider this just a basic lifestyle factor, but getting up, if you're low on that, getting up to a reasonable step count will measurably improve your ability to recover and your work capacity in the gym. It's a low bar, but it's a great bar to start with. The next thing we do is we start cobbling together some time in zone 2, which is kind of just low intensity cardio. We're breathing kind of hard. Roughly, we could still hold a conversation. We could breathe through our nose. Those are kind of general proxies for if we're in zone 2. And whatever fits your schedule best, we're building a lot of time across the week. And then if we want to take our conditioning one further, we start looking at high threshold stuff, kind of like interval training. There's different ways we could do this. You could look at a lot of different protocols for these higher threshold, whether we're doing like a Norwegian 4x4. There's lots of things that you could do here that would fit the more specific kind of energy profiles of different things within strength sports. So you could do more specific conditioning to those energy systems. But I would say most people would be pretty well served just doing their strength training, doing their active lifestyle neat, and then cobbling together zone 2, whether that's a little bit every day or 2 longer sessions a week or whatever you'll adhere to the most. Now, you're going to have to forgive me if this is a little wordy. Like I said, I'm making this up off the top of my head, but it's just something I was talking to a client about. The third category to be a well-rounded strength athlete is going to be power, right? We could imagine a guy who's quite strong, and maybe he's even got a good engine, but maybe you wouldn't call him quite a great strength athlete because he's very slow. A great strength athlete would have all 3 of these things, plus the final one that we're going to get to. So how do we address that in our training? The minimum that I like to include is if you're early in your training career or you're that hyper-specialized powerlifter who really wants to take a kind of season of training away to be more general, round yourself back out before you lean back into that specific training, is just the inclusion of some kind of sprint, plyo, or bounding movement. Even if it's just like 5 truly, because plyos only count if we're really putting maximal intent into them, even if it's just 5 max effort box jumps, kind of as a warm up for your squat day in that off-season period, awesome. It's another way that we can address kind of that neural efficiency, because when we want to recruit high threshold motor units, one of the ways we can do that is to move something really heavy very slowly because it's hard, or we can move something really, really as fast as possible. So it's a way that we can kind of using this category to support this. Cool. Okay, these things start to tie together. That's awesome. So at a low level, it could just be including plyos once a week, maybe a sprint variation. Maybe if you're worried about pulling a hammy sprinting, it's like a sled sprint. Or if you don't have a sled, maybe it's a hill sprint to slow you down a little bit. But just doing one of those movements somewhere in the week for periods of the year, I think will tremendously round you out as a strength athlete. The second one is basically just a training principle, which is assuming our positions are good and assuming high technical proficiency, it's compensatory acceleration training, which is something Fred Hatfield talked about a lot. When we move a weight, we move it with maximal intent. And then our warm-ups almost double as speed work. We're always practicing the skill of maximally firing motor units. So sometimes people will do this at the cost of their positions, and that's not so good. But if we implement this idea of moving our warm-ups with high intent, it's another way to become more powerful within our training. And then loaded jumps, speed work on regular lifts or Olympic lifts and their variations. If you're a big guy and you don't have a front rack, maybe we're stuck doing like clean grip, clean high pulls, or maybe we're doing snatch derivatives, just doing something we're able to do where we're, again, challenging this power component. It forces us to work on our mobility, which kind of shocker, that's going to be the 4th category here. So that kind of ties down into forcing you to take care of your mobility. The Olympic lifts kind of have a good 2 birds, 1 stone effect there. So the inclusion of these things for at least periods of the year is going to be tremendously helpful. And the final category is something that I am personally a big believer on. I think you could limit it to these 3 and be like, man, if you got these 3 things, you're a good strength athlete. But I really like including mobility and kind of general bodily awareness. There's some nerd stuff out there that, oh, there's no evidence you can improve general coordination past being a child. I believe if you learn new tasks every week, you're going to get better at picking up novel tasks. It's not just getting better at those specific tasks. You're going to be able to take up something new quicker. I'm firmly of that belief. I do think that your bodily awareness, generally in space for non-specific tasks, can improve with age. So that's something we want to have. That's something that, including some Olympic lifts in your training, it forces you to work on. You don't need to hit a huge snatch, but the inclusion of it will force you to work on your power production. It'll force you to work on your mobility. And lifters that have dabbled in Olympic lifting tend to be able to pick up the technique for other things quickly. So the other thing is if we get our mobility really good, then we're going to be able to position ourselves well to move more technically efficiently. We might be able to position ourselves to limit the ROM a little bit. Or we might be able to position ourselves to move more efficiently and split the load across more primary movers. Because even this one, right? If you have a bodybuilder, right? Eventually their mobility gets relatively bad, but it can get so bad that it impedes their ability to continue getting bigger. If you watch videos of, let's just say, Dorian Yates, Ronnie Coleman, Tom Platt, they all incorporate static stretching into their lower body training because they know that they need to maintain a certain level of flexibility to potentiate maximal leg gains. So even the bodybuilder who arguably isn't a strength athlete, arguably is, if they get too low in this category, right, their coordination more comes with the skill of isolating muscles, maybe phenomenal interoception, depending on who you ask, that's important or not important. But if they get too low in this, it'll impede their ability to get better. This one, more something to do in the off season to stay generally athletic, maybe potentiate good tendon strength for safety, just doing those plyos in the off season when they're able, improve their general coordination. Maybe not the most important thing in the world. This, really important, especially if we're really far down the mechanical tension is the driver. Getting strong matters tremendously. Whether you take a more reactive overload protocol like basement bodybuilding or a more proactive chase the +1 approach, either way, getting stronger is going to be a massive part of getting bigger. So these same things apply, whether you're just kind of a hobbyist and you want to stay well-rounded in case you want to do something in this future, whether you want to stay well-rounded to just make sure that like you don't get so specialized that it gets in the way of your quality of life, or if you want to set yourself up for like, hey, maybe if I really resonate with a specific strength sport down the line, I want to have success when I start implementing specific training. I think these principles are important. This was long-winded. We'll see. I think my viewer retention is going to be some fucking shit, but figured a couple of you guys might like this. I know a lot of guys get so focused on this one, and it works and it works and it works because maybe you come in, if you played sports, the capacity is already good. You played sports, so you're already fast, and you're not a big guy, so maybe you're coordinated from the sports and your mobility is pretty solid. Okay, well, becoming a better strength athlete involves tackling the one that you're bad at and allocating most of our training resources to getting bigger and stronger and more neurally efficient, right? Because if you take a fast guy and you get him strong, he will become more powerful. Just like if you take a strong guy and you get him faster, he will become more powerful, right? But eventually we've been kind of hammering this same, emphasize this one, emphasize this one, emphasize this one, that maybe that we get so heavy our capacity comes down. Okay, we need to round things out. Or we get really, really strong, but man, I can't jump worth a shit anymore. We need to get a little bit more powerful for a little bit. Or our mobility starts to suffer, and yes, I'm tremendously strong, but I can't position myself as well as I used to. My mobility needs to get better. Or maybe my ability to pick up a new task. Okay, I'm great at squat, bench, and deadlift, but if you told me to go do a novel task, I'm gonna look like a fish out of water. Maybe I need to include playing some pickup basketball on the weekend. Maybe I need to include some general movement practices. Maybe I need to include some other things that keep me challenging novel movement patterns, so that way I'm good at picking up new tasks, so I could be this well-rounded strength athlete that could get good at whatever you told me to. All right, just a little request from old Samwise here. If you enjoyed that, please leave a like and a comment. I'm sure it's gonna fuck up my viewer retention a little bit, and that is A-okay. But if you guys could make up for the people that bounced, if that's something you like, I appreciate it. Damn, I should have done that after having pre-workout. I don't know why I was so nervous talking through that, right? These are things I kind of talk about all day. But yeah, I hope I touched on the points that might help you guys with kind of rounding out your approach as a strength athlete. Maybe I pitched to you why you should think of yourself that way, kind of regardless of whether you compete, regardless of what specifically you want in terms of outcomes. I think it is just a productive base to then build whatever you want to build from. Also, I was thinking about today's session. Man, to this very moment, I'm split. Today is my high incline day. I've got one heavy standing strict press day, one high incline day. It's a great movement. It carries over well. It's a good use of time. And I figured it would also be cool to simultaneously peak my high incline while giving myself that chance to let my low back rest from that slightly more extended position. That being said, my intuition might be that I should do some standing presses today. I was thinking about doing just like a power-centric session on my overhead press from pins, same thing we do Monday, but a little bit more power-oriented. Both because my shoulders are a little bit under-recovered, and two, because it just intuitively feels like that's what I should be doing today, is doing a standing press. And it doesn't seem like the high incline would feel very good, but I have kind of set the goal of simultaneously peaking that. So we're trying to decide what we're gonna do here. I don't think I should do both. I think that would be unwise. So I guess kind of talking through this out loud, because I'm not sure if we've mentioned on the podcast, but I don't have an internal monologue. So it's very helpful for me to speak things through out loud. It makes things a lot easier. So I guess speaking it out loud, if I was really confident that the 405 is for sure going to happen, we're already ready, let's go, I would be like, all right, let's do high incline to see if I can secure both of my kind of goals in terms of pressing for this block, versus if I thought the 405 was kind of still up in the air, I should be doing everything I can to get ready. My intuition is telling me I should do a standing press today. I should do a standing press to maximize my chances at the 405, keep the goal, so to speak. And the problem is I'm right in between there. I'm feeling pretty good that the 405 is going to be there at the end of the block. So I'm like, okay, well, if the 405 is going to be there, I should also get the high incline. Like maybe I could get up towards 200 kilos, like 440 on the high incline. I feel like that would be a cool feat of pressing strength to check off. But man, wouldn't I feel like a jackass because I was kind of counting my eggs before they hatched to be like, oh, no, I'm also going to do some training for this 440 high incline. And yes, there's a lot of overlap, but at my level, we have to kind of dial in the specificity for some of these things. It doesn't necessarily apply to you. Peaking both simultaneously is often a great idea. I always want to be clear with that. People are like, isn't that helpful? It is, but when you're trying to reach like true limit lifts, maybe you have to dial in the specificity even further than that. So I guess talking it through, I often make my decisions in my training to avoid the worst case scenario. I always say, secure the 5-pound PR and then go up to what you think is there. That way you avoid the worst case scenario of having a killer training block and then not hitting any PR because you jump straight to a 30-pound PR, failed, dropped back down, failed again because you're tired. Avoid the worst case scenario. So I guess, having spoken this out loud, I should follow that general philosophy and do the thing that I think will put me slightly more in the direction of the 405 and making sure that I don't fuck up my road too by thinking I've already had it done when I don't. You don't get credit for a lift until you do it. All right, so we're doing singles here. If we were training for general power production or we were trying to peak to a rep max on my overhead press, we would probably do doubles or triples here because the second or third rep is often faster than the first one. We kind of get some micro adjustments in position from that first rep's feedback and we go faster and exposing our tissue, exposing our body to producing even more force is awesome. Because we're trying to peak to a single, we want to be specific to the single and we want to practice really reinforcing, creating as much tension as we can in the setup for that first rep. And we're looking for like minor motor learning of what makes me more powerful. What can I squeeze to get that meters per second up a little bit more each one? So we're doing singles here. We're going to probably go one every 45 seconds, maybe 30. And we're basically going to go for the first while. I'll go a little bit fast. They'll go a little bit faster, a little bit faster. I've got my little thing on the floor that tells me how fast the peak speed was. They go a little faster, a little faster, a little faster. Then I'm going to stay the same, stay the same, stay the same. And then as soon as that starts coming down, the interval is done and we will move on to our bench presses. That's what we're doing today. One of these reasons I really like this kind of EMOM or cluster or every 45 second, one of the reasons I love this format, especially if we're going to take a light day like we are today, is I think it's one of the best ways to do motor learning. If you're really trying to refine a exercise, if you're going to do 3 sets of 5, do 5 sets of 3, get more first reps, crunch down your rest times. That way the feelings and mistakes you just made stay fresher in your head. Like that first rep, I can feel I'm doing exactly what I get wrong sometimes on my heavy ones, on Mondays that you guys have seen. Sometimes I'll have a rep that's just off. I even had one that I missed and had to reposition. Whatever it is that I'm doing wrong there, I did it wrong there. So the idea is to end this interval. I've already gone past my 45 seconds. Ignore that. With a couple of correct reps and then move on with that being the last thing fresh in my mind and figure out what it is I need to cue to avoid those same mistakes. And I just think this format is sick for that. Better, better. All right, got some good ideas on what it is I need to do to standardize that, get the bar arcing up and back properly. As you can see, I snuck some 5s on each side. This is something I do with some of my athletes when we're doing inverted volume work. If I've got a sumo guy, I gave him 10 doubles on condensed rest. Sometimes I'll let them rise the weight through, like let's say the last 3 or 4 rounds of the doubles to see if they can make those positions that they've refined hold up effectively with a bit heavier weight. That doesn't mean work up to a max double. Don't be a jackass and like manage fatigue poorly. But okay, take those technique adjustments and then now try to make them stick with a little bit more weight and a little bit more weight. Almost everybody will be doing a bigger percentage of maximum than I am doing here. So just keep that in mind. But we'll still rise through the last couple sometimes. If they feel good, if they feel bad, we stay down at the weight. right, I decided I would just add 10 a set for the last little bit until I got to a weight that I could not break 1 meter per second with. It's my idea. Got 0.99 as my peak velocity on that last one. So we're gonna try again and see if we can end on that just being a high note, and then we'll move on to the feet up bench that I've been doing, which I've been really enjoying. It's really fun to get back to benching. Still my best lift. It's just like, man, it's like riding a bike. Shit didn't go away. Oh yeah, that was definitely it. Yeah. Gosh darn it. I did this 6 times. It felt pretty good on feet up bench press. Didn't film my 365 last warm up or this. Awesome. All right, well, I've got 2 sets of bench press today. So I guess we will try to get 5 for a second set here or match. I kind of had the options of either doing 2 sets across or 1 top, 1 back down. I feel pretty good. So we'll do a second set here. I'm thinking 5 will be the number to do here. Okie dokie. All right, speaking of me potentially counting my eggs before they hatch, last night I was thinking about what I maybe wanted next time I get around to a pressing goal. I was thinking a 315 pounds, so a 7-plate dip sounded kind of cool. I've done a couple of reps at 6 plates, so 275. I think that's very doable. A 500 behind the neck jerk. I hit 455 off of just like 6-7 weeks of messing around with it under Alec. So I very much believe that's within my capability. And then at some point, I'm gonna keep it in some feet up bench in the background. Once I get my feet up bench to an all-time best level, then we could play around with the idea of looking at a bench peak to 6.5 plates, so 635. That's also something that's probably after maybe both of those, but it's something I've kind of got in the back of my head. If I can reach like the level of, geez, a 6-plate feet up bench, I would be very confident in my ability to do 635 with reintroduction to feet down benching. So just something I'm thinking about in the background. Obviously, most of the thoughts go towards what do I need to do to make sure 405 happens so I don't look like a dummy dum-dum on the internet. I always get like, it's silly, right? Like, good, put your goals out there. But I always get secondhand embarrassment when like a guy quick shot calls road to 1,000 pound deadlift and he doesn't make it to like 925. I always like wince, mostly just because that's something I want to avoid. So we're going to get the 405 done. Like I said, it's been harder than I expected, which is cool. All right, we're going to see how much of the triceps we can get filmed here. People from the UK, riddle me this. When you guys say porridge, what specifically do you mean? I had this idea. I was like, okay, porridge is this thing British people have with breakfast. It's kind of like grits. It's kind of like, I don't know, like cream of wheat, cream of rice. It's like a neutral carb paste. That's what it is, right? But Kirsten made porridge the other day, and it was like kind of like chicken pot pie flavored, like very savory. Which one is it that you guys are referring to when you say you ate porridge? I watch a lot of British bodybuilders, so I'm like somewhat like seeing what people eat. Which one is it? All right, I think, geez, at least 13 here. At least 13. Okay, awesome, 15. Hold on. All right, that's wraps on the session. A bit of an easier one today. Got some heavy deadlifts tomorrow that I'm looking forward to, but Kirsty and I got to get over to the office and hunker down for a good afternoon of work. That way we can catch back up on all of our coaching stuff and be ahead and enjoy the weekend a little bit. I think they're playing Howl's Moving Castle at the theater in town. So the plan will be to do that, but we got to make sure that we get everything done so that way we can actually do that. So it's coaching time. Appreciate you guys watching my videos as always.